Hey folks, welcome back. Pop Retro. Pop Retro 1 is where you can find me at Twitter and at Instagram. Facebook.com/PopRetro1 is where you can find us on the Facebook page. There's also a Patreon, patreon.com/PopRetro. Don't have a lot up there yet because I'm still a pretty small channel, coming up with ideas though. So just want to let you know that that is out there as well. So taking a look at a Vinegar Syndrome Archive, a VSA release tonight. I wanted to share one of the more recent ones that I have just watched, and that is Fortress of Amerikka. That's America spelled with 3 Ks. And as you can see, this is the Vinegar Syndrome Archive, which come housed in these really hard shell cardboard cases that are really nice. You got the art on the front, the main art, and you got some old VHS art on the back. And this movie is wild. This is the type of thing I would have rented back in 1989, which is when it came out. I feel like if you grew up as a kid in the 80s and you were watching, say, G.I. Joe growing up, this seems like, and you really like G.I. Joe, this seems like something you might have watched when you were 15 years old, later on, a little bit later, when you were a little older and a teenager, because it really, to me, it plays out like a cartoon, albeit an R-rated cartoon with a lot of violence, gore, and nudity, but it does play out like a cartoon, complete with just kind of a silly plot that just kind of meanders all over the place, that really is just in service of throwing out all of the action and violence and shootouts and partying with the lovely ladies onto the screen. So just imagine that, a live action G.I. Joe movie made in 1989 that is R-rated. And you kind of get an idea. And of course, R-rated in 1989, much different than an R-rated movie today. So you got this guy played by Gene LeBrock, and he has just been released from prison, or he had gotten in trouble. I don't know if he was just released from prison, but he had spent some prison time for a while, just because he's just a badass dude. He's a good-looking dude, but he's a badass dude. He comes back to town because his brother has been done wrong. His brother has been killed, and so he comes back to the town to right this wrong. And the funny part is that it just so happens in this town of Tromaville, this is an old Troma released movie, so I forgot to mention that, and that is obviously a big deal, that this is a Troma movie. So he heads back to the town, and the Fortress of Amerikka of the title is actually this militia group that just happens to be hanging out in the forest land, kind of out in the middle of nowhere, hiding and training and recruiting people. And a lot of the scenes that fill the movie too are just kind of random scenes inside the Fortress of Amerikka militia, showing just how rough and tough they are and how they don't put up with anything. And they kill everybody. Everybody gets killed. Okay? Women, children, nice guys, the elderly. The Fortress of Amerikka does not care. You're going down. So that's sort of the framework that the entire movie is based on. It's just a bunch of action and shootouts and really just a goofy fun time that you would expect to find on your video store rental shelves back in 1989, 1990, back around that era. So Gene LeBrock, the lead, he played in a couple other movies, Metamorphosis in 1990 and Fatal Choice in 1995. The director is Eric Louzil, Louzil, and he did a lot of Troma pictures, and his first two motion pictures, full-length pictures, he did, I think, some short films prior to that, but in the early and mid-'80s, he did Sizzle Beach, USA, and Shadows Run black. And those were actually the first two movies that starred Kevin Costner. So Kevin Costner's first two movies were low-budget indie films by director Eric Louzil, who later went on a couple years later to do Fortress of Amerikka. And he also did the Class of Nukem High sequels, 2 and 3. And another movie that Vinegar Syndrome released, I believe on DVD only, called Lust for Freedom, a women in prison flick that I watched several years back, and it was enjoyable too. Kind of a lot in the same vein, where it's just a lot of action and just sort of throw in a kind of flimsy plot and let it go. But I think sometimes the reason the plots in some of these movies wind up that way is because of the production hurdles that these films had to overcome. And interestingly, there's a nice interview as one of the extras with director Louzil, and he talks about how, first of all, to do a lot of explosions, they had to move the production that started in LA down to Yuma, Arizona. And a lot of productions would go down to Arizona because in California, they were really particular about blowing up cars. And they wanted to explode a bunch of cars. So California had a lot more regulation with the air pollution stuff. Whereas Louzil in the extra, in the interview, is kind of funny because he says down in Arizona, they don't care. In fact, you want to blow up 50 cars? Great, blow up 50 more. And he said something like that, and I just thought that was funny. And he said also, he mentioned that off in the distance, there were some other explosions happening. There was another film crew down there filming at the same time that he was filming Fortress of Amerikka. And that wound up being Rambo 3, the Stallone movie. So there was a much bigger mainstream production going on in the same area that Fortress of Amerikka was shooting down in Arizona. If I'm remembering, I think it was Arizona he was talking about when he mentioned that. And one more tidbit too about Costner that was really funny was that Costner apparently tried to get these movies, the two movies, Sizzle Beach USA and Shadows Run Black, back from the director, and Louzil said, "Sorry, I already sold them." And so, according to Louzil, Costner was not happy about that because those are, early, B independent, low budget crap films, and Costner, of course, became such a huge star. He was probably wanting to hide those films as much as he could. Although now it seems like with everything, every little thing, if it's not getting a boutique Blu-ray or DVD release or 4K release, then it's at least out there on the internet to where you can read about it, know about it, and many times catch clips of it at the very least on YouTube or on some other site. So it's very difficult to bury everything in your early career if you're a big star these days. So, but I can imagine back in those days, back in the 80s, late 80s and into the 90s, I imagine that a lot of people in the film business still thought that they could pretty well hide things that did not get wide distribution or release. So at any rate, that's it. That's Fortress of Amerikka. Let me show you this disc, okay? Because Vinegar Syndrome does really good on these. Are limited editions. This one's limited to 5,000 according to mine, hand numbered, okay? And this was, I got number 742, which is not the lowest VSA, Vinegar Syndrome Archive title that I've gotten, but it's in the first 1,000, so kind of a low number. So I'm going to pull it out of let's get the front here. It's an homage, paying homage to the VHS era by having it load from the bottom. So there you go. Boom. Pull it out. There it is. This one I usually don't have the VSA trouble where you try to put it back in and it catches and it jams up. And this one I did. I don't know if you can see it. You can see where I did kind of jam it up a little bit in there. And this is the first time I've ever had that issue. And I read about it a lot, and I've seen other people have troubles with it, but I've always been pretty good at not having to do too much fancy crap to get it back in. But this one, for whatever reason, I kind of had to. And this one, you can't really tell, but it's kind of pinched down a little bit. Like, I don't think I had anything sitting on top of this, but for whatever reason, the other ones, you know, are kind of a little more up. You know, there's a little more space, but this one you can tell there's some bow up and, you know, down. And so that kind of hurts it a little bit. And plus the actual case, the plastic case, you can see it's got some bow in the plastic, the outer plastic too. So all of that, I think, has conspired to present to me my first issue with getting it back in. So anyhow, there's that. There's the back of the case. There's some screenshots. Try to get the glare off a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. And you can see the head there. This actually it has a lot of gore. You know, they had some fun with the gore effects in this movie as well. There's a poster it comes with, and there's the disc. Reversible art, of course, and the reversible art are the same reverses that are on the slipcover. Take out this poster. I usually don't show the whole poster, but I'm gonna go ahead and take a look. It's a double-sided poster. So there's one side. There's the other side. Okay, the same art, same reversible options that are on the disc and the insert. And I'm going to stick all this back in. And what I reverted to was the old take this sheet of paper and stick the sheet of paper over kind of on that edge to get it going. And let's see if I can do this on camera. See if I can not destroy it on camera. And then thanks to that sheet of paper, it kind of helps it go in there, and good. I've got it in. Now I can slide that paper out and slide it all the way in. VSA, baby. VSA number 20. This is the 20th VSA. I'm gonna have to do a video on all the VSAs. I have them all so far. So probably my favorites of the Vinegar Syndrome line. Definitely the favorites of their offshoot lines, but I'm growing to like these because they do a lot more of the action adventure B movies in the VSA line, whereas their regular line is more horror, which I love too, that era of horror, but horror and exploitation, and it's a little more all over the place. But so I'm really enjoying this line too. So that's very, very limited and a lot of rare stuff. So there you have it, Fortress of America. Thanks for joining me. I will be back very, very soon with another review and some more haul videos, and I'll see you then.